Well, to help us break down what's really happening in the Strait of Hormuz, we're joined by Dr. Ian Ralby, Global Maritime Security Expert, the President of Auxilium Worldwide and Senior Fellow of the Centre for Maritime Strategy. Dr. Ralby, welcome back to Asia One News. Negotiations are underway between Iran and Oman on opening a temporary route through the Strait of Hormuz. From what you're hearing, is there real substance to this, or is it just another announcement without much behind it?
We're really running into concerns around the parable of the boy who cried wolf, with so many announcements and yet no substance. And so the problem is that if any two states, no matter which two they are, come to an agreement, it's unlikely to hold given how many different parties there are to the overall situation now. And so just an ironclad agreement between Iran and Oman doesn't mean a whole lot unless the US, Israel, and now even Yemen and some of the other Gulf states agree to it. And so I think we're looking at a situation where no amount of bilateral deals will actually resolve situations across the entire region now. So it's a good move. I mean, I certainly encourage negotiation. This is only going to be solved with diplomacy, but it will not resolve the overall situation entirely.
And Dr. Ralby, even if a partial or temporary route opens, how long realistically before shipping and insurance companies feel confident enough to resume normal transit?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have great news on that, because if we look to the Red Sea situation, the Houthis started attacking ships on the 19th of November 2023. The overall traffic from Mandeb in the southern Red Sea has not come even close to resuming its pre-November 2023 levels. And that means that years have gone by without the restoration of confidence, even in the absence of attacks. And the situation in the Strait of Hormuz is far more dire. In fact, in the last 72 hours, we've had 3 commercial vessels face incidents of some kind of attack, warning shot, or their aggression. And so we're way, way away from where there is full confidence and openness. And I think part of the problem is that the sides do not agree on what an open Strait of Hormuz looks like. On the one hand, the President of the United States and the US administration seem to continue to say that it is open. On the other hand, Iran says it's open but subject to its own agreements. And the reality is that very few ships, especially tankers at the moment, are traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. And so we're months, if not years, before we get to the resumption of pre-February 2026 levels of travel.
Around me, just how much lasting damage has this blockade already done to global shipping patterns and the economy? And are shipping companies already permanently rerouting away from Hormuz?
It's a great question. And unfortunately, shipping companies don't determine necessarily the extent of the rerouting or the permanence of their routes, because part of that has to do with the shippers, the people who put the goods on ships. And so the ships will return if it's both safe and open, and if there are cargoes to pick up or drop off. So there is a give and take on that. But the problem is that there is no clear end in sight. Where the situation has been focused on the Strait of Hormuz, we now have concerns in the southern Red Sea. We also have concerns in the Suez and Eastern Mediterranean. And when you add up the fact that we also have concerns in a different theater with the Caspian, the Sea of Azov, the Black Sea, all the way down to the Mediterranean, we're looking at an enormous area of the world's maritime commerce that is effectively under huge concern for danger to seafarers' lives and risk of loss of cargo. That's not good news for shipping. And so there's a lot of adjustment that's happening hourly at the moment in order to account for what is going on the water. But in terms of the long-term harm, we are likely to see knock-on consequences on the economy for months, if not years, given the slowdown in the availability of key cargoes of oil, of gas, of refined fuel products, of helium, of fertilizer. All of these things have impact that isn't necessarily immediate, though we have all felt the price of fuel rise, but they can be long-term in their consequences as well. So we're way away from feeling the end of the war.
And so if Iran's model of controlling and charging for passage through Hormuz holds, could that set a precedent, say, for other choke points like the Strait of Malacca or the Bab el-Mandeb after this?
Absolutely, it is a concern, because there are a couple of principles that govern how maritime commerce works. One of them is freedom of navigation, which is what would allow for the free passage through an international strait, like the Strait of Hormuz, the Bab el-Mandeb, the Strait of Gibraltar, or the Strait of Malacca, or any other. But there's also a uniformity principle, which means that the way that the choke points as well as coastal state authority is governed around the world has to be somewhat the same. We can't have a huge degree of difference between how things are done in one place versus another because it creates confusion and uncertainty. And the shipping industry needs clarity, consistency, and certainty in order to keep that free flow of maritime commerce, which moves about 90% of all of our goods. And so we want that. Everybody wants that worldwide. So if we have a separate regime for the Strait of Hormuz, others will want to know why they can't have that too, especially if the two coastal states on either side, Oman and Iran in this case, start benefiting financially. So why shouldn't Singapore and Indonesia, or Malaysia and Indonesia, or Spain and Morocco, or any other two states? And we've already heard this week concerns around the Houthis trying to impose a toll as well. And they've done that in the past. A UN report indicated they collected about $2 billion in 2024 from transit passage fees, allowing the ships from places like China, Iran, and Russia to go through without being attacked. So this spells trouble for global maritime commerce and the world's economy.
Dr. Ralby, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.